In the winter of 2011 in Virginia, a 21-year-old woman, 5 months pregnant, vanished silently from her apartment. She had a husband serving on the front lines in Afghanistan and a lover with a terrifying need for control. 11 years later, a man finally admitted he disposed of her body in a storage bag meant for a Christmas tree. Today, we're going to talk about the disappearance and murder of Bethany Decker. This is not just a tragic love triangle, but a story about domestic violence, control, and imperfect justice. Bethany Ann Decker was born in 1989 in Fredericksburg, Virginia. She was an undergraduate at George Mason University, majoring in global and economic change, studying by day and working nights at an Italian restaurant. She was pushing hard to earn enough credits to graduate while paying her own way, your typical hard-working college student. At school, she met National Guard member Emil Decker, and the two quickly fell in love. In 2009, they married, and soon after, Bethany gave birth to a baby boy. But married life wasn't easy. Emil was deployed to Afghanistan for long stretches, and their baby was cared for by his parents in Maryland. On the surface, it looked like an ordinary young couple struggling to build a life, until 2010, when a customer during a night shift changed her life forever. His name was Ronald Roldan, 8 years older than Bethany, from Bolivia, with a complicated romantic history. He had been married, had children with multiple women, and one of those children had tragically died. At first, they just talked. Bethany tried to comfort this grieving father. Soon, the relationship crossed the line and turned into an affair. By late 2010, Bethany realized she was pregnant again, and this time, the father was Roldan. She rented a new apartment in Ashburn and moved in with Roldan, while her husband, still in Afghanistan, had no idea. What she thought would be the start of a passionate romance quickly turned into a daily life of fear. Roldan's need for control was extreme. Whenever Bethany went out alone, she had to constantly send him photos, reporting where she was and who she was with. During arguments, he became violent, even threatening to cut her open with her own car keys. Bethany told her parents about the abuse, and they even called the National Domestic Violence Hotline, trying to help her leave safely. But pregnancy, guilt, and hesitation kept her from truly leaving this dangerous man. In January 2011, Emil was granted a month-long leave from Afghanistan. Before he arrived, Bethany moved back into their shared apartment, and the couple even took a trip to Hawaii. Trying to repair their marriage, they visited their child and Emil's parents, and no one noticed any sign of a complete breakup. The crucial day was January 29th, 2011. That day, they returned from Maryland to Virginia, and Bethany called her restaurant to confirm she'd worked the night shift. According to the schedule, she should have shown up for work that night. She never did. Roldan later claimed he briefly saw her that afternoon and then assumed she was never coming back. From that day on, no one other than Roldan ever saw Bethany alive again. A few days later, on February 2nd, Emil's leave ended, and friends gathered at the airport to see him off. Unlike before, this time, Bethany wasn't there. Friends thought it was odd, but knowing their marriage was strained, they chose not to ask questions. For nearly 3 weeks after that, Bethany didn't attend classes, didn't go to work, and never used her phone or bank cards. But on Facebook, she seemed very much alive. Bethany messaged friends saying she had messed up a lot of things, needed time alone, and that being with Roldan was the best relationship she'd ever had. Those words made her mother uneasy. They didn't sound like Bethany at all. On February 19th, her grandparents drove to her apartment and found her Hyundai parked outside, covered in dust with a flat tire. They realized the car hadn't moved in a long time, unlike their granddaughter who took good care of it. No one answered the door, and the elderly couple called the police. That day marked the 21st day since Bethany had vanished from the world. Police quickly confirmed that after January 29th, there was no trace of Bethany's activity in real life. She didn't use her cards, didn't make calls, had no travel records, and no abortion records at any hospital. Yet she had just paid her final semester's tuition, clearly planning to finish school. Naturally, investigators turned to the two most important people in her life, her husband Emil and her lover Roldan. With the military's cooperation, Emil was brought back from Afghanistan for questioning. He stated he knew nothing about his wife's disappearance and passed a polygraph test. Even so, he remained under public suspicion for many years. Roldan, meanwhile, had moved back into his mother's house, living in the basement. He told police that after January 29th, he never saw Bethany again and assumed she wasn't coming back, so he moved out. Suspiciously, he hardly tried to contact her and never went to her apartment looking for her. For someone so controlling, that level of calm was anything but normal. In March 2011, with a search warrant, police found Bethany's car keys in his mother's house. He claimed they were just spare keys he hadn't returned yet. Police seized his computers and phones, but found no direct evidence strong enough at the time. With no body and no eyewitnesses, the case stalled for years, until 3 years later, another woman ended up bleeding under the barrel of a gun. In November 2014, in North Carolina, a woman called 911 saying she and her boyfriend had shot at each other. Her name was Vicky Willoughby, a single mother in her late 40s. Her boyfriend was Ronald Roldan. Vicky told police that during an argument, Roldan began beating her, pulling her hair, punching and kicking, tearing at her clothes. Living in constant fear, she had hidden 2 handguns in the living room. That night, she fired first, hitting Roldan in the chest and abdomen. Roldan then grabbed the gun and shot her 3 times, wounding her arm and right eye. Those shots cost her the sight in her right eye forever. Vicky escaped with her dog to a neighbor's house when he wasn't looking, barely surviving. Roldan was arrested and charged with serious assault and attempted murder. In a later TV interview, Vicky revealed that Roldan had once threatened her, saying he could make someone disappear forever. That sentence made it impossible not to think of the woman who had vanished 3 years earlier, Bethany Decker. In 2016, Roldan accepted a plea deal in North Carolina and was sentenced to 6 to 8 years. For investigators in Virginia, this was a rare opportunity. If he finished his sentence and was deported to Bolivia, Bethany's case might never be solved. In 2020, as his sentence neared its end, Loudoun County authorities issued a new warrant and brought him back to Virginia. Investigators re-examined all the old digital records. The breakthrough came from the IP addresses behind those Facebook messages. They discovered that in February 2011, the Facebook posts sent under Bethany's name came from the exact same IP addresses used by Roldan's own email and social media accounts. Those messages about needing time alone and how great things were with Roldan were almost certainly written by him, not her. He was impersonating her, deliberately creating the illusion that she had simply chosen to disappear. By late 2020, a grand jury indicted Roldan on second-degree murder charges. In November 2022, at age 42, Roldan reached a plea agreement with prosecutors and admitted to killing Bethany. In exchange, he would receive a reduced sentence, but he had to give his version of what happened. In the confession video made public later, Roldan quietly described what he claimed happened on January 29, 2011. He said they argued about her work schedule and that he lightly pushed her. Bethany's head hit the window ledge and she collapsed to the floor, motionless. He claimed he checked her breathing, and realized she was no longer alive. He didn't call 911. He didn't seek help. He said he was scared, so he grabbed a storage bag used for the Christmas tree and stuffed her body inside. That night, he dumped the bag in a nearby dumpster. The trash was quickly hauled away, compacted, and destroyed. 11 years later, investigators admitted her remains were almost certainly unrecoverable. Sheriff's officials and prosecutors made it clear they did not believe this was just an accidental push. But without a body or further physical evidence, they couldn't prove a more brutal motive or method in court. In February 2023, Roldan was sentenced to 40 years in prison, but under the plea deal, more than 27 of those years were suspended. In reality, he is expected to serve around 12.5 years. If he commits another crime or contacts Bethany's family during his suspended sentence, the remaining years can be reimposed. For many people, that sentence doesn't feel like enough. He didn't just take the life of a 21-year-old mother. He also took the life of her unborn child, but with no body and only the killer's account. Prosecutors had to compromise between ideal justice and the risk of him escaping the U.S. legal system altogether. Bethany's mother has said publicly that she does not believe this was an accident, nor does she believe Roldan is truly remorseful. Investigators admit they still feel they never got the full truth. The only certainty now is that once he serves his time, this former lover, abuser, and gunman will be deported to Bolivia. What remains in the U.S. is a mother's unending grief for her daughter and a child growing up without the mother he never got to know. This case once again shows how dangerous domestic violence and extreme control can be. Most tragedies don't come out of nowhere. They start with "it's not that bad," and "he just has a temper." If someone around you is experiencing control and violence like this, encourage them to seek help early, before it's too late. What do you think? Given the lack of a body and limited evidence, is 12 years truly justice? Would you accept a plea deal like this, or gamble on a trial and risk an acquittal? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next case.